Thank you for joining us for another series in our Young Alumni series for SJMC Days. So today we're speaking with one of my fabulous former students, Miss Ankita. And I just want to go ahead and hand it over to you, Ankita, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience at Drake and where you're at now. That would be fabulous to start off.
Absolutely. Hi, my name is Ankita Dhussa, and I graduated from Drake in 2013. I majored in radio TV producing in the J School and also sociology and had a minor in religion. And now I am living in San Francisco working at the neighborhood social networking app Nextdoor as a user researcher.
Very cool. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about your position and what are some of your day-to-day tasks? What exactly are you doing at Nextdoor?
Yeah, absolutely. So I work on the broader product team, and within that team, I work on the design and insights team. So essentially, what user researchers do in the tech industry and at Nextdoor as well is understand how do people actually use the product. So how do people actually use Nextdoor? What do they like? What do they not like? What are some gaps that we're not currently meeting? And how do we create experiences that can sort of help create a stronger experience? So it's really rooted in understanding both through qualitative research methods as well as quantitative research methods, just how do we create an experience that is actually practical, usable, and delightful.
Awesome. And can you tell us a little bit, because I know your journey from Drake, you kind of took a few different paths. Can you give us a little bit, and I know this isn't on the questions, but I want to hear a little bit, especially about like Fulbright and those kinds of things, if you can tidbit some of those ideas, how you ended up at Nextdoor and the path that from Drake that got you there.
Definitely, yeah. It's kind of a winding road. So graduated in 2013, and like a lot of J schoolers, the importance of internships was really evident to me throughout my experience at Drake. So I had a few different internships while I was an undergrad. One was working with some festival submission work at a documentary, and another was an internship, a video internship I did with the Army. And my last internship before my senior year of college was with Hulu, the streaming company, when they were still pretty small. And I was working on the technical side of video transcoding issues. So basically fixing video issues through the actual code of the video, less so the creative side through like Final Cut Pro or Premiere, which was absolutely different than anything at the time I was taught in the classroom. So I went back to Hulu full time after graduating and was doing similar work to what I was doing on my internship, kind of fixing those technical issues. And then while I was there, I realized, though this is really interesting, I'm kind of missing the creative side of work. So I learned about this field called user experience research. At the time, Hulu was pretty small, so there wasn't actually a user research team, but I had a really wonderful manager who was supportive with me taking classes and kind of starting some of that work outside of my day-to-day responsibilities. So as I got more interested in the field, I wanted to switch into full-time and took a job at an education technology company called Udemy. Moved up to San Francisco, was there for a year and a half, was still sort of missing the creative elements, wanted to also dig in deeper into research. I applied for a Fulbright fellowship, which I was really lucky to be awarded, and moved to India for a year where my research was focused on the female-only coaches on the metro systems, specifically through multimedia research methods. And that for a year was an amazing experience, and was lucky to apply still within the window of being able to apply as an alum of Drake. So Dr. LaRue was really helpful with that. Came back to the States and then eventually joined Twitter, where I was researching false and misleading information. Then I briefly went to a financial technology company called Brex, where I was doing user research as well, and then came to Nextdoor. And the reason I was really interested in Nextdoor was because it's sort of still rooted in community-driven insights, which is related to some of the work I was doing in India, and still in qualitative research methods, and the team is just wonderful.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that journey. It's been so much fun to watch. Ankita and I have been sharing that we actually had this relationship for years now that we've known each other and been a part of each other's journeys. And so it's been so cool to watch and be a part of all those amazing experiences. And for my students in J40, you're going to get a chance to see Ankita's portfolio where she actually showcases a lot of that work from India. So make sure you check that out. Okay, so my next question is there a specific class that you recall from Drake that was really benefited you in your career path, maybe early on starting out, something that you called a lot of attention to, or you felt you gained a lot of experience from?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, a couple classes. I really enjoyed, I don't remember the numbers now, so I'm realizing how long it's been. So, so I'll like vaguely describe them. Yeah, I really enjoyed the capstone projects that we did for sure in the production world, where we kind of blended broadcasting and the radio TV majors. I think seeing that and having that sort of live experience was really exciting. And at the time, I thought would be what my career would be. Obviously, that's not what ended up happening, but it got me very excited to kind of envision what my life could look like. So that was really interesting from just like a practical, technical standpoint, and working on deadlines and really feeling like I am a journalist. The other classes though within J school, I'm not just saying this because I took it with you, but 54 I really enjoyed. I think that really helped me stretch my writing skills in a way that I hadn't envisioned. Even going into J school, I always gravitated towards photography, and I felt like I was never a strong writer. But I was able to really think about.
Oh,
But no, I think it really helped me push my storytelling and skills in a way that I wouldn't have otherwise, because I was like, that's not my world. Yeah, and I really enjoyed really all the classes that, especially the specific ethics ones, but any that really touched on ethics and First Amendment specifically, and your class did that as well, because I think that's such an important part of being a journalist, and it's something that more industries need to think about. And as a researcher as well, it's really important, and something that I think about a lot within the tech industry, which has a lot of ethical concerns that we need to think about critically.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. And I loved having you in class. And to put the record straight, Ankita is a fabulous writer. She sells herself short. And she was one of those students that, and my advice was, she always carried that advice, was that you get out of that class what you put into it. And Ankita put a lot into that class. And so our relationship is one thing that came out of it, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So what advice, if you could go back, I know we're going back, just a couple years here, but if you could go back and talk to your first or second year self, what are some pieces of advice you might give yourself?
Yeah, wow. I think get more involved in things that you don't think are up your alley, like things like writing. For me, for example, towards my sophomore, junior year, I started writing a few articles here and there for TD, but I wish I had done more of that, because that was such a big part of my high school journalism experience too. It's really hard to balance everything though, because there's the radio station, and then there's other video opportunities, and there's the magazines, and then there's other general college activities too. So I think really taking the time your first and second years to really think about just trying everything and see what sticks, but making sure that you're enjoying what you're doing, because you're doing it for yourself. And yeah, I think probably in the courseworks too, the classes that are hard for you, like that's okay. And if you need to retake a class, that's okay. I had to retake econ. It was really hard the first time. And, yeah, and it's okay to ask for help too. And I think owning that this is the point of college, and especially your first couple years, is to learn. So if you don't know something, it's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Ankita. Yep. What are you seeing from individuals who are entering the job market today? So, your peers who are joining your corporations or the industries that you're in, the tech industry, do you have any advice for them? Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the folks that are entering now as new grads are not my peers, which has been a wake-up call for me. So that's been an interesting journey that is separate. But I think that it's really important, especially given what we've all gone through with the pandemic and how, how we're having this conversation and just how the workforce is changing so rapidly. And that's something that I think, being in tech, we've been a little bit more prepared for than other industries, in different ways. But the bigger thing, though, and this is something that I've thought about a lot too in my own career this last year and a half, is that it's important to enjoy your job, and it's important to feel like you're doing something that means a lot to you, but also your job is not your entire identity. And if you end up doing something that is completely different than your major, like I am, like, you'll still find things, you'll still find nuggets that sort of tie back to that. And especially the first few years after college, or your 20s especially, like, it's okay to hop around. The first job you get after graduating is not going to be the career you have forever. It could be, but it doesn't have to be. And I would actually urge that it not be, and take those risks while you can and you're excited to. It's scary, but it's worth it.
Absolutely. That's a really good point. Like, it's no longer our parents' industry where we stay in one job for 50 years or something along those lines and retire from it. That's a really good point. And if it's not a good fit, right now it's a white hot job market. So it's a good opportunity to explore and look at other options. So I know that's one of the things I love doing with you is, talking a little bit more about where you're thinking. And I love that Ankita's one that always has a plan, and is kind of thinking ahead. So with that, what's next for you?
Yeah. Honestly, I am really enjoying my current role, and I think it's taken me a little bit of time to get to that point. And part of that has been, I was talking to one of my friends about this recently. I think for so much of my time right after graduating for the last decade or so, it's been sort of trying things that seem really interesting and trying things that seem really cool, and trying to make sure it still maps to the path I have in mind, knowing that that path will change, which it has. And yes, in many ways. But now I'm really excited to sort of settle down, and dig my feet. Is that the saying? Dig in my feet? I don't know. Get my feet wet. They're wet. I'm really leaning in. It's really going well. I'm really leaning into the role I'm in right now, and I'm really lucky to now be at a point in my career where I can do that, and I can really be picky about the places I want to work and the types of things I want to do. And to my earlier point, that being in a place where my work is important to me, I'm doing a good job, and I'm dedicating the time I need to at work, but then I'm using my additional time to be doing other things, like pursuing new hobbies, or making sure I'm still staying engaged with photography, or writing short stories, or seeing, my friends and family. And I think that has now been the new sort of chapter for me, is just living a more balanced life with my career and the other things too.
Awesome. Well, as I said, it's been just an absolute joy to be along for the journey and to be a part of your life and these experiences. And I love every time that you come back and, we get to visit. And I love when I've made it to San Francisco and gotten to visit Ankita as well. So we have those experiences. So I know that, you do lead a really busy and fun life. And I just appreciate all the time that you're giving to us, to our students, and this time that you were giving to me for the SJMC Days series. I really appreciate it. Okay.
Honored to be part of it, and always a joy to see what you're doing and how you're continuing to inspire future generations of students.
Yay! Go Bulldogs, right? Like, we just love all of our Bulldogs. So thank you so much, Ankita.